Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 246. That's 243 weeks in a row. We're coming up on 5 years, which is really awesome. I have to do the math to figure out what day it is, but I know it's in June. But anyway, here we are. We're with Danny Burgess, AKA the Living Agent, you're in Sacramento, right? Sacramento, California, Danny?
San Francisco Bay Area is where our team is located. Yeah.
San Francisco Bay Area. Okay, cool. Right. So Danny's been in the business, got a great story, been in the business a number of years. But we're going to go real quick to an intro and we will be right back to get started with the Danny Burgess. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. And again, welcome everybody. Good morning to Real Estate Talk TGIF. This is episode 246 with the Giving Agent, Danny Burgess.
And living.
Right. So Danny, you've been around a while. You've got a really interesting way you started in the business. But before we get started with that, I have one question for you. You notice this Real Estate Talk TGIF. What does TGIF stand for?
Gosh, thank goodness it's Friday.
You're really close, Danny. Just don't feel bad. 95% of the people do not get it right. It is, thank God, it's finale. I'm sorry, it's just right there. It was staring you right in the face. But you know what? You have great company in the people that have not gotten it correctly. Anyway,
Danny, I didn't know we were going to start with a dad joke.
What's that?
I said I didn't know we were going to start with a dad joke.
Well, yeah, you know what? It's really important to have that kind of humor. I mean, my kids give me a hard time about it all the time, and they're in their lower 30s now, so they're really busting my chops. They just like roll their eyes and walk away, So, but you know what? I am who I am. Anyway, Danny, so you started in business a number of years ago. Talk to me about your journey. Talk to me how you started. And, all the trials and tribulations, because everybody thinks this is a business of, real estate is you get in business, you make a lot of money. And it doesn't always happen that way. Talk to me about that.
Well, you're darn right. I think a lot of people, I think I have a little bit of an imposter syndrome feeling today because I still feel like I'm the guy I was 8 years ago when I started. And to that point, 8 years ago, I was a Lyft driver. I was a bartender. So I was waiting tables, bartending. I got licensed. I was commuting about an hour and a half from Marin County down to Silicon Valley to get to Keller Williams' office and start all of the trainings every single day. So, I would wake up at about 4 or 5 a.m. I would Lyft drive through San Francisco. So I'd be picking up passengers along the way, all the way down to when I got to the Keller Williams office in Palo Alto. I would script practice from 8 to 8:30. If my team hears this or is watching, yes, I was doing that 8 years ago because today, as we speak, we're doing it right now. And then from 8:30 to 10:30, I would prospect. And then I would go to all of the classes that Keller Williams was offering, anything I could absorb. I was going to those things, and I was really diving into education and trying to find ways that I could articulate real estate without sounding like a newbie. So the first year or two was just a lot of learning, a lot of prospecting, a lot of training and practicing the scripts. I was really into calling expireds, canceled, going to open houses, kind of the same old story. But the first year was challenging for me because I was working 4 jobs at once. And then eventually I kind of broke through. When I received my first paycheck, I was able to jump out of the plane and go full-time in real estate. So my second year, I almost got to 200K in GCI. And then third, doubled again. And then I was able to start learning and leveraging and trying to figure out how to grow a team. So the beginning was turbulent. It's still turbulent today. And 8 short years ago, I was bartending and Lyft driving. So that's kind of the beginning of the story.
Bartending and Lyft driving. I mean, I have a couple of agents that I've worked with over the years that have Let's see, worked in strip clubs, bartendered, did a lot of different things, and also bartending and also waiting and all that stuff, which you did as well. So you said that you did a lot of script practice, and you had, your first 3 years were really interesting. So your first year, how much did you make in your first year, Danny?
My first year when I was still working those other jobs, I made 10 grand.
Right. Okay. So anyway, so I want to put that to perspective. As you built your business, you actually exponentially grew over the first 3 years, right? What was the key to your growth in getting into this business, having a year where you didn't do a lot, and then the next years?
I mean, effort was like the underlying current, but the biggest thing is I was constantly working on my mindset. Every morning that I was driving in that car, like I had never done Tony Robbins. I had never been in the world where you're like thinking about your thoughts and your
Right.
mindset. And for some reason, when I turned 30, I'm 37 now, something snapped in me. I mean, truly, you can ask some of my older friends, they know, like something like a switch literally hit where I was like, I'm going to figure out my brain and figure out what's going on like inside of me and why I'm struggling so much. And so the biggest thing was I was focused on personal growth from the very beginning of my career, and to this day, it's my number one thing. And then right behind that, it was showing up every single day and buying into the systems and the trainings that Keller Williams offered. And that was the big thing. And then I would just go all in on prospecting, even though I sucked at it.
So, Danny, do you think that the number 30 changed you with that switch? A lot of people are still looking for that switch, as they get older and older. What do you think it was?
Sorry, my baby's crying in the background. Can you hear her?
Yeah.
I don't know where my wife is, but hopefully she's okay. 30 was one of those moments where I looked around and I realized that the life that I had been living isn't the life that I wanted. And I had never really thought about future, never really thought about goals. I didn't clearly have children or married at the time. So I did have my girlfriend. She's been my girlfriend. She was my girlfriend for years before 30, but something inside of me said, I want more out of just bartending and waking up hungover. And, I don't know what it was. I truly don't know. But I had a moment where literally, I think it was on my 30th birthday, I said, enough is enough and I need to change. And so I did.
I think it has a lot to do with, decision and decision and seeing what you saw. Like, what's more important? It does come back to what you went through your 20s. I would imagine, I'm sure you worked an awful lot of hours bartending and doing everything else.
Yeah, a ton of hours. I worked probably 6 nights a week as a bartender, and then I would sprinkle in serving in between there. And then I would also be Lyft driving around my real estate schedule. So I was working a ton. And when you're Lyft driving and serving tables, maybe you're making in the Bay Area 60 grand, and that's for like 40 or 50-hour weeks. But that was a lot of money for me back then. And it was enough for me to just while I was in it, I felt like I was rich, right? Like while I was in it, I was getting $200 a night in cash and, $1,000 a week from Lyft driving. So like, I felt really wealthy, but I was only making, maybe 60 grand in my highest year. So it's just kind of a funny mindset.
So you fast forward from that time, bartending, Lyft driving, and then starting in the real estate business and excelling to where you are now. Talk to me. I want to put it perspective, starting, doing what you're doing with Lyft driving and practicing your scripts when you got there. And then today, tell us what your situation is today and who you are as Danny Burgess today in the Porch Lake Bay Area team.
Yeah, I'm an aspiring team leader. I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. I've had trials and tribulations over the last 4 or 5 years growing a team. The biggest thing that I've learned is, to grow a team, you have to be a great leader. You have to be very selfless. Currently, we have 13 agents, but just three months ago, we had 22 agents. And so as the market shift, everyone starts looking around, and we lost agents off the team. I was stunned. So right now we're at 13 or 14 agents. And last year we did 117 million in volume, and the year before we did 122 in volume. So the last 2 years has been a battle inside of my mind. Do I get out of production? Do I not get out of production? It's this little dance. And how do I add more value to these agents' lives and make it really worth their time being on our team? Like, that's what I'm always thinking, is how do I make sure that the value proposition is here? And then losing, 8 agents or whatever it was over the last few months made me think, okay, so I'm not perfect, and maybe our systems aren't perfect. Where are the gaps? Where are these things that I'm missing? A lot of it was just them not showing up, to be brutally honest, if they end up watching this. But a lot of it was just them not showing up, but some of it was on me. And I have to take responsibility for that. So yeah, that's where we are volume wise and agent count wise.
So what's interesting about that is, like, having been a broker owner for a long time, I had the same thing happen to me. Agents would come, agents would go. And for me, unfortunately for me, I can't speak for you, but I always took it personally when an agent left.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I've had to learn differently, even with the team that I've started now and the other people I work with. We have a couple of different teams working out of the same location. And when something happens there, I feel bad for that person. I feel just as bad as they do because it sucks, right? And one of the things that I remembered, and I remembered that feeling, and I always said way back when, Danny, was that, and even today, I can bring a horse to water, but I can't make him drink, right?
I was thinking that in the back of my head the whole time.
And it's like, all right. And then I read something about 6 months ago that really put everything into perspective to me with that saying, you can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink. And I always said that there was so much drinking water that they're up to here and about to drown in it. They're so thirsty, they won't drink it. I'm thinking I didn't make them thirsty enough. I think that might have been my problem, where I had all this stuff and it was, look, I would tell you something. I had a cloud way back when, before anybody knew what a cloud was. I had an ISA department before anybody knew what an ISA was. My problem was I didn't follow through and I didn't let it work, right? So and they didn't understand it. So that can happen today too, with all the different things going on. And now everybody wants, I'm going to hire somebody to do my social media, and I'm going to hire somebody to do this. No, it just doesn't work like that, So how do you relate to that saying and that thirst thing with how you, because it happens to everybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, we probably have the most invasive training we're scripting as we speak right now. My team scripts every single morning, 8 to 8:30 a.m. We have 3 trainings a week, a buyer seller consultation practice a week, a team meet. Like, if you want to tap in and go all in, like, this is it, right? And I learned that from my own building blocks and from Keller Williams. I'm no longer with Keller Williams, but I learned it from them, and I'll give them that credibility or credit. The truth is, if someone's not producing, they're always going to look outside of themselves for something to blame.
Right.
So the team or the team leader are going to be the first people they blame, period.
Right.
And that's something, like you said, you took it personally. I took it so personally, man, when these people left. Like, I can't even tell you, especially 2 of them who made over $100,000 in their first year in real estate under me. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, these people, one of them made high 6 figures, like high 100,000 mark. And I was just kind of blown away. And I think there's 2 things to it. Number one, they want to find something to blame, and you're going to be the first one on the chopping block.
That's true.
And then number 2, they truly don't know what they don't know. So if they're a newer agent and they've never been on another team, they have no idea the type of coaching, training, accountability, resources that they're receiving, because they have no comparison to make. So some of the agents that have been on my team for the longest are the ones who actually started solo,
so they understand better.
So they have perspective of what it's like to be out there in the cold.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's another big learning lesson that I've taken away.
I think, you can look at different things. We can say the last few years were an anomaly, and they were. Right. They were an anomaly. And we would also say that agents that got into the business over the past few years didn't really have to learn, or if they wanted to learn, they're going to do well now. but they didn't really learn because they didn't think they had to learn about, I mean, the big joke over the last year was what's a price reduction, right? And learning how to do their business, how to grow their business. To me, the lifeblood of everything we've ever done has been lead generation. And, it was always being the broker owner of years past of a franchise. It was, okay, so what can I do to bring leads in? The heck with managing those leads, because agents didn't want to do that. And I learned something. I heard something recently from Grant Wise, who said he did a presentation and he talked about the right way and the wrong way of doing things. And he talked about what are agents getting in the business to do? Why do they want to make money? Why do they want to get into business? Well, they want to show houses and they want to fill out contracts for sales. They don't want to lead gen. They don't want to follow up. This is the majority. I mean, we've learned all this the hard way because we knew we had to do it and had to grind. Look at the day you got in the business. It wasn't that easy, right? So Grant had this line that says, you can't blame a fish for his inability to climb a tree. It's like they don't want, when the majority of agents don't want to prospect and lead gen.
I was holding in that laugh. That is such a good line.
Right? You can't judge a fish for their ability to climb a tree. And it's like, holy shit, that's it. And that's when I thought about the thirst thing. I didn't make them thirsty enough to want to climb the tree, or the fish didn't see the good enough food up there, right? So I mean, you can relate to that. And it's also, the feeling you had when they left. It's like, shit, what did I do wrong? What could I do better? Right? Talk about that.
So this is so good that you brought this up, because I just posted this on all my platforms yesterday, and I'll read it to you guys if I can find it. Number one, I think human nature, period, pushes us away from the pain, always, right? So we're always battling across every single garden of our life.
Yeah.
Me and you on this screen, different.
Right.
We are always being ripped away from this pain, and the pain is prospecting, right? The pain is all the shit that you don't want to do. So to go against nature is so difficult, no matter what, right? And if you don't know the reward either, if you can't see the reward close enough, then it's really hard to get them there, right? It's like, Dave, if I told you, hey, I'd give you $1 million if you just did what I said for 1 year, what would you say?
I would say, I'm in.
You'd be like, I'm in, right? And then once I hand you the playbook, now you're like, and Danny's not in the room with you, the $1 million seems so far away, right? And I think that's like the biggest thing, is that the instant gratification just isn't there in this business. It's so hard to find instant gratification. It's just, look, it took me 3 years, right, to get a big home run of a year. 3 years, maybe it doesn't sound like a long time, but day in, day out, by myself, literally by myself, script and role playing every single day for 3 years straight. And then I make $500,000, right? So was I good at what I was doing? Maybe I had some additional talent stuff there, but it was also showing up every day. Okay. So I found the thing.
Go ahead.
I just wrote this yesterday. The hard but obvious truth of our industry. We must show up to our business with the correct intentions every day if we want to thrive. Prospect, follow up, service, learn, implement, leverage, in that order. You're in sales first and foremost. You just happen to be in real estate. Your job is to find clients, and you must show them why you every single day, keeping your sales funnel churning. Then, and only after the sales part, you service the clients. The nice cars, the vacations, the team building, the HGTV part, why most of you got into the business,
right,
only happens after the sales and prospecting.
Beautiful.
Just wrote that yesterday. So it's identical to what Grant was saying. We just forget that first things first. You got to find the clients.
Right. And then see, that's it's funny. As long as I have been in this business, and it's a long time, and I am always looking for, maybe I'm still looking for that shiny object, that magic bullet. And what that shiny object, magic bullet is, how do I get an agent fast track to get started, to get that first deal quickly? That's it, right? So what you're doing as your agents are scripting right now,
Right
I
now.
find in my many years that this is the best way for an agent to understand and to really learn the value of how you talk to people.
Mm.
And that's what our business is. Everybody's always a relationship business. Yeah, damn right it is, right? And so one of the things that we've done, look, I walked away from my business 5.5 years ago, my brokerage, coached a bit, and then I came in, I joined EXP, and I fumbled around trying to build the downline, and then it finally hit me with the help of my coach Grant Wise to do this, to build a team. Now I've been through it. I've had the failure and successes of that brokerage. But the difference is now is I'm not going to recruit you, Danny. I'm going to say, hey, man, you want to grow your business? Join us one day a week. You come in and watch what we do and how we help you. We do this every day. Experience us.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that you're doing with your agents with the scripting and stuff. That is how you, in my opinion, that is how we build a team and even a brokerage for that matter. But I find
it's so boring. It's so boring.
Right. And I can tell you that it is really boring and it's something to really embrace. Right. I mean, Brian Danny calls it repetitious boredom. Right. I mean, you've heard him say that, and it is just, but it's okay, because when you think about the boredom of the scripting and the calls and everything you have to do, it's over and over. But if you keep doing it over and over again, it's like, okay, so I need to get a couple of listings this week. All right, here we go. But you can't stop. It's just like going to the gym. That's the way I look at it. If you stop going to the gym for a couple of weeks, oh shit, I got to get back to it. Oh shit, I got to get back to it. Right. So anyway, I mean, that's how it is. And the thing you said, which is really cool, you referenced the stages of learning, that when they left, they had good years, but they still didn't know what they didn't know. They thought they didn't need the prowess and the leadership of Danny Burgess, which is like disappointing for us in our own personality, right?
Well, I'm so competitive, and so is my wife, and we've poured everything into this team. I mean, millions of dollars. But not just that, our heart and our soul. And so for us, it's like, some sick competitiveness in me was like, okay, you want to leave? Go ahead. Like, let's see what you do this year, and then watch what I do this year. Like, literally inside of me, that's what came out over the last few months after losing. Dave, I didn't lose any agents for the first 3 years building my team. Not one. It was crazy. I had a crazy record for not losing agents. Maybe we lost one or two, but very, very few.
Right.
And then to lose so many so quickly, I was devastated, but more importantly, I was invigorated. I was like, we are going to crush this year. And so not only is my personal production going to be higher than probably ever in 2023, but I'm looking to make some agents on my team who are showing up, I want them to have the biggest, greatest year ever, so we can reprove that we are doing the right things here. And, I'm just inspired by it. And yes, it hurt, but I'm taking the good from it, and I'm using it as my fire.
So, what it is one of the things I noticed about you when I first quote unquote met you was at an event recently, and had seen you on social a lot. And what I noticed is one in particular thing that was impressive to me, because it's with me too. And we're talking about how we felt when people left. It's your passion that you have in what you do, heart and soul. You use those expressions. And I'm going to give you one you didn't use, but I know you do. You wear your heart in your sleeve as well. Yeah. Right. And it really does hurt when people leave, but then it's what sets us free is that passion, right? Our freedom is our passion, right? So knowing that, it makes you strive and drive for more. And this is, we are talking about ourselves here, but it's a good example of what, like the new agent, or the agent that might be stuck, not know what to do. I mean, it's about action, right? And the agent that's stuck doesn't know what to do. Needs to listen to their passion, right? Mm-hmm. So you're talking about the stages of learning, not knowing, not what. Oh man, I got screwed up there for a second. Sorry, they didn't know what they didn't know, and as they move forward, so if you're an agent, Danny, and you're looking at where you are now, if it's a team or it's a brokerage, what is the negative part for for a team, a person on the team for that? Why would you think they would leave? What are they missing? Right? What is that agent missing?
So there's a couple of things. One, I want to start by saying, I hope there's some team leads that hear this, and I hope this really does help them. And I want to say one more thing about this. Think about where you were before you built your team. Like, that's worst case scenario for you. So if you were a badass before you built your team, you're going to be a badass no matter what. So I just wanted to put that out there for everyone else to hear. But what were they missing? Is that what the question was? What were they missing?
Yeah. What are they missing? And was it ego?
I think honestly, it's the brain telling you, is there something better out there that I can go and get? Like, I think we're all guilty of that. And if you don't know what you don't know, I don't know a lot of things, right? And sometimes I think of things, right? Because a lot of us are entrepreneurial. Most of us are, right? Most of us are going to be very much like big idea people.
Right.
Oh, I have an idea. Oh, I have an idea. Actually, this one gal who left, her name's Rita. I love her to death. She was the big idea gal. She was always coming to me with, hey, we need to do this. We need to do that. She's like, we need to farm this neighborhood. I'm like, Rita, the turnover rate's 2% in that neighborhood. Like, you don't want to farm that neighborhood.
Right.
And so I think the biggest thing you can do with mentorship or team leaders is go to them with these big ideas and be ready for 99% of them to be shot down and be okay with that. So like, if you have a great team leader, they're going to be raw and honest with you. And I think the biggest thing the worst thing you can do if you're with a great team leader is not be radically transparent with them on your thoughts, because they can help you through all of those failures that they went through when they were years ago, and we can both be successful together. So instead of running around and looking for a better thing, they should be going to that team leader. Because look, if someone comes to me and says they're struggling and says they want to do X, Y, and Z, and I think that's a better fit for them than being on my team, I'm going to tell them.
Yeah.
Because I'm a good human being. And like, I don't want someone on my team who's unhappy, who's unproductive, period.
Right. Because that's not going to fit into what you're trying to do and what your culture is as well. I mean, everybody talks about culture when it comes to teams and stuff. And, I just think it's like, it's like your client avatar, right? Your perfect client avatar. When it all comes down to it, you want to know, where do they work? What kind of clothes they wear? Where do they shop? All this other stuff, right? And what it really comes down to is, are they like you?
Yeah.
Are you going to work? You want to work with people that are like you. You want to, when it comes to buyers and sellers, et cetera. But when it comes to team leaders, when it comes to other people on the team, that's what they want too. Of course, the money's got to be there too, and they have to have some success, or if they don't want the success. Speaking of success, let's transition into actual production. Mm-hmm. So as you started your business, you knew you had to learn the scripts and stuff. So this is a question I want to start with this little portion with. Is I ask this of a lot of top agents in the country, and most people that are on this broadcast get this question in your position, and it is, you got to get a deal, you got to get a listing within 1 week. How are you going to do it?
So many different ways. If I had to, I'd spend an hour over the next 5 days. You know what I'm going to do? Just to hold my feet to the fire, I'm going to get a listing in the next 5 days. We're going to put this to the test right now.
All right, cool.
So I'm going to text you in 5 days and tell you where it came from. So for the next 5 days, I'll call expired and cancels for 1 hour a day. That's what I'm going to do because I want a listing. And then right after that, I'm going to call all my past clients. All my past clients, maybe 2 to 5 years old, and see how they're doing. And then, of course, ask them for business. And then right after that, I'm going to call my closest 25 sphere members. So closest 25 people to me, I'll call them.
So now I want to alter the question, if I may. You're a new agent.
If I'm a new agent, there's no doubt in my mind I'm calling canceled and expireds all day long. And I'll pull a list that's 2 years old, and I'll call every cancel and expires from the past 2 years. So you can go to Vulcan 7. So I use Vulcan 7, the Mojo Dialer. You can go and pull data that's super old. If you have leverage like a VA or something, they can actually scrub that list and see which ones have sold and narrow that list down to all the canceled and expireds that haven't sold over the last 5 years. Do you think that's a powerful list?
Yeah, I do.
So I would call that until I was crying. And then I would be at open houses. I would be door knocking. I would just not stop, period. I think the biggest thing what we do is we stop before we get our appointment.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like, have you heard of the J curve, where somebody starts something new and is, oh shit, it's not working, and then you get to the bottom of the J and say, you know what, I quit right before it starts taking off.
Yeah, you just gotta keep calling until you get the appointment. Right. And if you're a new agent, you should be doing absolutely nothing, period, besides setting appointments. Like all of the other shit that you're doing, the brokers tours, the touring of houses, all the dumb shit that realtors tell you to do, stop doing it, period. Yep. Like you should not be doing anything in the world except for prospecting and setting appointments. Like, yes, arguably you should be shooting video and social media content, but all of that stuff doesn't matter if you're out of the business in 12 months because you didn't set appointments. So set appointments, then go shoot your stupid video or build your flyer or go see homes. Like all of that stuff comes after you set your appointment. And it should be set your appointment. It should not be prospecting. It should be set your appointment, then go do whatever the heck you want to do.
So I briefly talked about what we do. We call it this modern agent framework, and what it is. We don't call it prospecting. We call it appointment setting.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Right? And that's what it's all about. And another thing is like people, well, I want to put my post on social, and I got to get my stuff out on social. That's great. Posts are great. Everybody's really excited about these cute little fucking reels that they do and all this other shit. We both do it, and for us it's a little different. But how about engaging with people that are possible customers? How about actually commenting on their stuff? How about actually going out and trying to start a conversation on what you love so much in social media? That's one of the things that we spend an hour a day on, by engaging with people on social rather than just waiting for them to like. Oh, I got 3 likes. I got 2 new followers. Nobody gives a shit, right? It's not going to bring you business at all. All right. So work ethic is important. Desire is important. You also mentioned talking about your journey, you talked about this not being worthy. You talked about that. You talked about imposter syndrome, right? You still have it now, you said.
Yep.
How are you getting through that? What are you working on to do that? Because, okay, you're a very well-respected agent in my circle, right? In the circle of people that I hang out with, when I go to events, et cetera. You're asked to speak on stage. And you know what, man? I respect you. I love what you do. And I hope this is not making you feel worse. But how are you getting through that? Because agents have that too. Sometimes some agents have this ego issue, and then they have another ego issue, which is this.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting topic because technically your ego can get in your way, even if it's not, hey, I'm the best.
That was my
your ego can be, hey, I'm not the best, or it can be, hey, I'm not worthy. That is your ego. So this is a very funny story. I used to be so against the third person media. So like when an agent puts their phone over there and then they take a picture of themselves and then they post a stupid quote. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like they're taking a picture of themselves, like standing here, right? And then I always thought, oh my gosh, that is so egotistical. That is so lame. That's so fake. And then I realized that's branding. That's just branding. That's just clever branding because those posts get more engagement. Like all of my Instagram, if you look at it over the past 2 months, has changed to that third person stuff. And the reason I did it was because that is a brand. My image is my brand, and I need to attach myself to my brand, right? And so my body is my brand, and so stop being afraid of using it, right? So anyways, back to the imposter syndrome. You know what the truth is? I just let it roll. Like you said, I speak on stage, and I've done that a handful of times now. And I've gotten such incredible feedback from people saying, holy shit, dude, like you were the best person I thought was up there. Or, man, I learned so much from you. And then I get DMs and I get texts and I get all these messages like, dude, you've inspired me so much. thank you so much for sharing, like, so, like, honestly and transparently. I get a lot of this feedback from a very large real estate community. And those are the things where I'm like, we're all in the same boat. Like, looking at you and where you are in your career, I'm writing down notes you're giving me right now. Being humble enough to, like, be a student and a teacher, like, is so important. And I think if you can do that, if you can be humble enough to teach Dave and then also learn from Dave, like, in all facets of your life,
Right.
then I think the imposter syndrome starts to fade a little bit. But always, like, when I talk about making 7 figures, like, it's a very weird subject for me just because of where I came from. So I'm still working through that, and learning how to talk about things that maybe I didn't come from, a little bit more openly and honestly. So
It's this is one thing I never thought I would talk about, but I'm going to talk about it now. Is talk about, people have said really complimentary things about you. People have said complimentary things about you. Just what you said just now, right? I have a question for you, and then tell you why I asked the question. Do you ever write that down? Like what I just said about you speaking on stage and all the people saying, how inspirational you were. Do you write that down anywhere?
Mm-mm.
So I got this. I gotta give props to the right people. Grant Wise told me this, and he got it from John Cheplack. There's this has helped me an awful lot. People give you compliments, and being the quote unquote modest people that we try to be, if we're not that egotistical, is we say yes, thank you so much. Oh, Dave, you looks like you lost a lot of weight. Yeah, but I got got more to go. Or Dave, that was really good. Yep, but I got more to do. That's bullshit. We just got to say 2 words.
Thank you.
Right. But here's something I want to give you and give everybody else. This is really important. I want you to get a little journal. And every time someone says something nice about you, I want you to write it down and who said it and the date they said it.
That's so cool.
Right. And Grant called it a brag book. And this is for every agent out there. Right. Every agent out there, when someone says something nice to you, I want you to write it down. And when you wake up in the morning, when you get started or you're having a bad day, open that book up and fucking read the whole thing. I'm sorry. This is just, the idea, I never thought I would talk about it, because when Grant suggested it to me a number of months ago, I started doing it. And I saw a guy who's my partner now. I actually bought him a book and wrote a compliment in for him. And I saw how it meant the world to him. And we just need to realize that we're pretty good. I don't know. Is that something that makes sense to you?
I think that's awesome, dude. I think it's a great idea. I wrote it down.
Okay. All right. So let's get back into production. Okay. We know how you're going to get a deal within 5 days. And you said you're going to do it. And you're going to text me in 5 days that you got.
I'm going to do it.
Got the listing. Cool.
I'm going to do it today.
All right. Awesome.
I'm going to get my listing appointment today.
You get the appointment today. Or you're going to get the listing this week.
I'm going to get the listing this week.
All right. Cool. All right. So we're going to let everybody know what Danny does. And we should get really back on a really quick one next week when you do that. If that's all right with you.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. All
right. Cool. All right. So Danny, I saw you recently. You talked about, a lot of ways to do business, and you've got, I want to share this because you've got such a great open house system, right? Everybody talks about mega open houses, right? And it's such an overused phrase these days. Mega open house, you know what? It's still the same agent putting a sign out at the corner, then a sign out in front 15 minutes before the freaking open house, and then watching their watch. No matter how many people are coming through, they can't wait till it's over. And when it's over, they're lucky if they remember to pick up their signs and they walk away. So I actually have built a lot into my process that I give to agents, and it's a lot of work. Talk to me about the significance of what you're doing and how it's helped your business with open houses.
Yeah, I think my open house system is the best in the country. Shots fired. Come get me. I really do. Because I've stolen everything from everyone else that was doing all these stupid open houses the last decade, right? I'm a big steal people's stuff and make it better. So I think mine is the best. I really do. Everything I've ever heard, and from just generally what I've produced for mine own, I think mine's the best. Now, unfortunately, the agents that left my team are going to go utilize that in my market against me. I'm pissed.
You want to know? You don't know what? They're not going to.
They will.
Okay.
It's so anyways, I have a webinar on it. If you guys want more info on it, DM me. But in short, the biggest thing is making it a legitimate lead pillar in your business.
Right.
So you can't just show up to the open house and sit in the open house and say, okay, I'm at an open house, right? There's so much that goes around my open house system where you're going to get the majority of your contacts not at the open house. So the open house might be 25% of the actual conversations you have at the open house. Everything else surrounding it is the meat and potatoes that builds your pipeline for long-term success. So our open house system is a lead pillar. It's not just a fucking shot in the dark, right? Like, hey, we're going to go sit in open house and hopefully I get to write an offer on this open house. Like, I'm never thinking I'm going to write an offer on this open house. I never have that thought when I'm doing open houses.
Right.
It's always, I'm building my pipeline. I'm adding people to my database, right? And then this is going to be a long-term play. Now, sometimes do the agents get lucky and a buyer walks in and they say, hey, I want to write an offer on this house? Yes. Every now and again, once a month, one of my agents has that thing happen. So that's cool too. But the biggest thing, guys, is we just have to systematize it. We have to cold call before it. We have to door knock before it. We have to set it up appropriately. And this is one of the things that I harp on. Make sure that listing looks good, because every single neighbor that walks in there is thinking that's your listing. Then they're going to be judging you off of the presentation of that open house. So if you're sitting in an open house and it's dirty as shit and it looks terrible, like, that's a representation of Danny Burgess, not the listing agent that you're doing it for.
That's right.
So that's another big one. But there's a lot of other.
Right. And the intricacy of what you're talking about is that the work, it's only 25, the open house is only 25% of what you're going to get out of it. And that's really what the point I wanted you to make. And you did, was there's so much work before, right? And invitations and everything else that you're going to do and everything else. And open houses is not just something you do because you got nothing else to do and you got no business, right?
It's a pillar of your business. And I think for newer agents, there's absolutely nothing better than that, because it does two things. Number one, it gets you in front of the audience. But number two, your social media credibility is so important. And you can post these open houses, and guess what? The market has no idea that's not your listing. Like, every single time you're in that open house, you're showing that, you're shooting a reel, you're posting it on Facebook, whatever you're doing, every one of your friends and family members are like, wow, that guy's really kicking ass. And you may not have never sold a house, right? So I think that's also a really cool part of it, is there's a lot of smoking mirrors you can utilize to make it look like this is your stuff, even though it's not.
Exactly. And there's so much to it. And you talked about social media. So I want to transition a little bit into that and talk about social media. And we talked about this a little bit the other day, and talking about how we look at social media and what we see on social media and who we see. Now, I had an agent yesterday that I work with ask me about what's the best way to send out an email blast, right? And I said, well, what are you doing with the email blast? What's the purpose of the email blast? What's your backup? What's everything else that you're doing to support that email? And the question was, what do you mean? And what I mean is basically, what else are you doing? And how are people going to verify you are who you are? And why would they open your email, right? Mm-hmm. I look at everything that we do. Now, open houses is a main pillar of your business, but there's also your sphere of influence, withdrawals, social media, circle prospect, the whole thing. And one way or the other, one of those pillars, they're all going to look for you on social, right? Because let's face it, that's where people hang out. Facebook is like it's like posting at the Super Bowl, right? People put listings on there. It's like 70,000 people. You're just getting, hey, I got a new listing, right? That's just one way, to do it, but it really doesn't work that well. But they're going to check you out. And we talked about this the other day. You talked to me about social media, and you had called it the thief of joy.
I forgot about that. Yeah. You know the circle that we hang out on, right? Like, the circle we hang out in are some big dogs, right? And most of the stuff that I do, I learn from them.
Right.
But if I'm constantly comparing myself to the Daniel Beers, the John Cheplaks of the world, which I do because they're literally directly above me in my coaching company, our coaching company. You can find yourself just consistently comparing yourself to these greats who have been doing this for 20 or 25 years, right? And you do the same thing as an agent, right? As an agent, you're comparing yourself to the agent who's been in the business for 10 years, right? If you're a new agent, you're looking at this person who's selling 20, 30, 50 homes. You just don't see the things that they do to get there, right? A lot of the times they're not posting
Right.
all the 99% of the terrible shit they had to go through to get to that 1% that you're seeing. And so, like we were talking about, what you got to get in a habit of doing is utilizing social media as the tool, not as the weapon. Like, I know we didn't use those words, but I thought of that after. Like, it's weaponized against you, right? Like, literally you're set up for failure on this little dopamine trap, right? And so you have to somehow systematize your posting, your engaging, the post and ghost method, meaning you
I
post.
love that.
I forget who told me that. Someone in my sphere. Post and then ghost, and then re-engage, and then go, right? Because what we end up finding ourselves doing is we end up getting on our cell phone, looking at the comments and stuff, and re-engaging, and then all of a sudden we're sitting there scrolling for 30 minutes, right? So, boy, do I love being out on a trail hiking with my wife or my dogs or my children. Boy, do I love fishing. Boy, do I love vacationing, all of these things. Why am I sitting here wasting my time on my phone when I can be outside? Like, let's get real. So social media is such a wonderful tool for businesses and entrepreneurs, and such an evil tool for just the layman's person who, is getting marketed to, basically.
Yeah, and it's just post and ghost. I love that, post and ghost. I mean, it's what I have tried to do because we talk about comparison, right? It's comparison is where the joy of knowing what other people are doing gets taken away, because like you said Chet Black, you said Dan Beer, and we can talk about. I mean, we can go names ad infinitum.
Blessings to them, because clearly they're the ones top of mind, right, on our social media feeds.
Exactly.
So they're the ones who are marketing the most. So they're going to be top of mind. But you can go down your personal sphere, right?
Yes.
Who in your sphere that's not in real estate, that's posting all the time about their wonderful life, that's actually full of shit, right? Like, that's, there's also the sphere factor where it's really a fake life, right, that you're looking at, and you're constantly like, well, why are they getting that, right?
Well, it's also, for years I've called Facebook Fakebook. So I mean, it's one way to look at it. But one of the things you said is really, really important. I want everybody to know this. One of the things that we hear is find an agent that's successful and copy them. Okay. I want to change that, and I'll tell you why. I would find an agent that's successful and model them. Okay. Because you said it yourself. They're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. They're not seeing all the work that went into it. They're not looking at all the other posts that maybe sucked or didn't, or all the other stuff that was their foundation and their footing for their business. All you're seeing is the glitz. And these new agents try to put the glitz out there and says, I don't know why it doesn't work. Well, you got to do the work for it to work, right? So take an agent, like take Danny Burgess, for instance, the giving agent, model what he's doing. Look at what he does, but you just can't look at this broadcast. You've got to look and see what he's doing. I mean, look, I've spent time looking on your social to get to know you a little bit better. And I do that every week, whoever's going to be my guest. I've got to do that. It's a responsibility I have, because I just can't go in, willy-nilly. And that's why we talk earlier in the week. So we get a little bit of a relationship if we don't know each other that well. Relationship, there's the word, right? So, I mean, I think that's the way to go, and to see everybody on social media. Don't let anybody take anything away from you. And that's why it's good to post and ghost. Or you can use that other thing called Siri on your phone and say, give me a 3-minute countdown, and then you're done.
Yeah, I like that too. One of the other things one of my mentors said that has stuck with me for the last few years, Tammy Pack, she said, just keep posting, because you're not getting the likes of the comments, but people are seeing it. Like, a lot of people are going to be jealous of what you're doing. but they're still seeing the posts, they're still seeing the houses, they're still seeing your videos. So when they do come time to buy, sell, or invest, you are the top of mind, right? You are the Colgate toothpaste that they remember. So just keep posting, keep being consistent, whether you're getting likes or comments. Don't even let that be part of the equation. You're just marketing. It's just your billboard. Just keep posting.
Yeah, and just I want to add two things to that. One is years ago, I've been doing video for about 15 years. So when I started doing it, nobody was doing it, and I would go to events and stuff, and someone would say, "Well, hey, Dave, I saw your video today," and they'd chuckle, right? And I would look at them and say, "Yeah, but you watched it, didn't you?" And they said, "Yeah," right. The other thing is you talk about keep posting. I think it was Gary Vee that said, "Give them the $1.80 version of you. Give your 2 cents 90 times a day." And
Yes.
right. So, and it's so important. I mean, there's a lot of people we can use as examples. I mean, because I'm not great at it, but I work at it every day. I mean, look at Kenny Trung, right? The way he posts on his stories. The same with Elias, right? They do such great work there, and they're so, they're so to the point, and they're so human as well. And I think that's the important part. Danny, what would you say to an agent? We've talked about how to get business, and we're coming up on time here, and I want to respect your time as well. What's the best way for someone to get unstuck? Because there seems to be a lot of those out there right now.
So funny you brought up Kenny. Kenny's so awesome. Kenny is in my direct market. I grew up literally with him, and I've watched him for quite some time. And he's so humble and cool. He let me come to his office. We drank together all night long. He's fitted me up in his Team Fast sweatshirt. Like, he was like, "Take it, don't worry about it." So I'm out running the town wearing Kenny's Team Fast sweater, like, while we're out and about. He's just such a cool person. And that's a guy who everyone should model, because what he truly doesn't give a fuck. Like, he's like, "I'm going to post. I don't care who likes it." He's his own dude. He's just an honor to watch because he's so authentic in himself.
Right.
I mean, he smokes on his channel. Like, he just doesn't care. Like, he's just like, I just love his authenticity, and he's just a cool cat. So one of the things I wanted to bring up before we left was, the number one thing I see with top people, whether in real estate or not, is speed of implementation. Speed of implementation is a critical piece for anyone in their life. And so we spend so much time. I was a victim of this for probably my first 4 years in the business. I'd go to all of these events. I'd go to all these conferences. I'd go to all these meetings. I'd learn stuff. I'd be so excited, so motivated. And then boom, nothing. I mean, no activities, no implementation of anything that I learned. So if there's anything you take from this, you really need to just go. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, if you just learned, okay, Danny says open houses. If you just heard this and you were inspired, I would go fucking DM Danny Burgess right now and be like, "Danny, I want to know everything you're doing on your open house right now. And I want you to hold me accountable to doing it." Like, and someone like a Danny is going to say, "Sure," right? Because we want to give back to our people.
Right.
But that's what you got to do. Like, you hear this, you literally pick up your phone and move as fast as you can. And then you find the open house this weekend. Then you go do it. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, sleeting, whatever. Speed of implementation is everything, because you learn along the way, right? You don't learn if you don't move. And so you just got to go. That's like the biggest thing. You got to move so quickly. My sales manager thinks I'm crazy because I'm constantly tweaking and moving around things and adjusting our team like all the time, because I'm not going to wait to find out the hard way. I'm going to just move. And then if I was wrong, we'll adjust again.
That is so perfect, because we've been to so many conferences over the years and over our careers, and I've heard it time and time again. If I can just get one idea out of this, you heard this from other agents. No. If I can implement just one thing, those are the words that should be used, and putting stuff into action. If it sounds good, start it right away. I mean, you walk out of that room from the speaker, get on it right away. We can do that now with these things. When I first was in the business, we didn't have these things.
You can implement immediately from a conference.
Yes, you can.
And I've seen Mark Pattison do it. Like, Mark Pattison will hear something. He'll literally go to his team and he'll be like, and it's just gone. It's moving. The train is moving. The project is on. We're moving. We're taking action. I mean, you brought something up today, which is the one thing, biggest thing I'm going to take away, which is the hour of social media engaging, outbound engaging. That is so cool. And we're not doing that. And I'm going to start doing that. Like going and complimenting or commenting on people's stuff. I thought that was super cool. I'm going to implement that like right now when we get off this call.
Awesome. Always ask a question. The way I tell people to do it is ask a question that they have to give you an answer. No yes or no question. That's the important part, because you want to start a conversation. I don't mean to tell you, you know, the way to do it. This is what we do.
No. Heck yeah, dude.
And it's getting appointments online. You go from the thread to the DM to a phone to an appointment.
Heck yeah.
It's great. Hey man, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. You're a great individual. I knew that from the beginning. I have two things for you. One, how do I help you grow your business?
You know, we're big on agent to agent referrals. So San Francisco Bay Area, send us all your deals. Send us all your referrals. I guarantee we'll run through brick walls for you guys. So we're still selling houses over here. We're not above that. We sell houses for a living. So send us your referrals, and we'll take great care of them. Go online, show me some love on social media. More importantly, just follow my stuff and implement. Like I give away a lot of free stuff on my Instagram in terms of tips for agents. If you find value on it, share it to the agent community, because you know, you're sharing all those dumb memes anyways. You might as well share some useful stuff for the agent community. And I'm not talking about you, Dave. I'm talking about the world.
I know. I get rid of the dumb memes anyway, because they're bullshit anyway. But here we got at the Giving Agent on Instagram. You got Danny's contact info here and his website scrolling on the bottom. One last thing, Danny, we can never forget this, and sometimes I do. I know you want the hat.
Hey,
there it
let's
is.
Go. Right? That's
So
we're going to be showed up.
We're going to be sending this hat out to you. It's one of my favorites, actually. We have all different colors, but I want to thank you so much for coming on, man. If you would just stay on for one more minute. Next week, we have a really cool person coming on. Her name is Shivani Peterson. She is a mortgage advisor at All Western Mortgage out on the West Coast. And I found her on Instagram, and she is so very cool. She's going to talk about how she does her Instagram, how she helps people, and that's going to be really cool. So as we go out, everybody, thank you. Danny, as I asked, please just stay for a second, and we'll see everybody next week.